the profiles can be found, as can a full list of the guidelines with annotations. And my time is up, and I will yield the floor to thank you very much.
So in researching this book and writing it, we are depending heavily on the network of personal relationships in the world condition of protected areas. And a very good example of that is that kind of relationship is the man I'm about to introduce, Fuki Wong, is the former director of the Hong Kong Country Parks, currently on the board secretary of the Friends of the Hong Kong Country Parks. Last year I was in Hong Kong, and Fuki and one of his colleagues were kind enough to take a whole day to show some of the sites of that marvelous system. Fuki, please.
Good evening, everybody. Just heard Eamon's very informative introduction. I know that everybody would like to have a copy of that book. That's very important. I got the opportunity to have a look at the draft. I was given some opportunity to give some comments on the guidelines. There are 4 P's in the guidelines in the urban protected areas. One is people, guidelines 1 to 11. 2 is places, 12 to 20. Partners, from 21 to 27, and politics, 28 to 23. So it's very easy to remember. There are 33 guidelines. My question is, are all these guidelines covering everything in the urban protected areas, or are there any omissions? I will raise 5 questions. This first one is on people. We all understand that urban protected areas are established for people. They are for recreation, for healthy activities, for connection with nature, refuge during the disease. I have a personal experience on this. During the 2003 and 2004, there is SARS in Hong Kong. People cannot travel to other places. So they stay in Hong Kong. Most of the people go to the country parks, to the protected areas. So this becomes a refuge for the urban dwellers. The urban protected areas also help to improve the environment, making the urban life less continuous. My question is, are we too anthropocentric? That is, are we too human-centered rather than nature-centered? We will emphasize too much on people. Like this picture, one man riding on a horse and driving all the animals I have. So, that's question number 2. On places, I can distinguish 5 places of conflicts in the urban areas and conservation. 1, whether the area we should cover to include the protected areas, or we should excise on the protected areas. Whether to control the urban spiral, or we tolerate a high density of living conditions. Because if people, the protected areas is too large, then people have less space to live. Are we maintaining nature or permitting development? Are we conserving the nature habitats, or are we conserving the artificial restoration of the habitats? Are we seeking for the long-term sustainability, or are we opt for the short-term benefits? My question is, what are the mechanisms in solving this urban and nature conflicts? The third thing is on partnership. I can identify 5 relationships. The partnership is going to build up supporting and problem-solving systems. In partnership, it's easy to say than to do. Sometimes we have identified the relation between who are the partners and who is going to lead. Partnership and leadership. When we have partners, and their rights and responsibilities, people always like to have rights but no responsibility. When we have a networking, we do all the things, but what are the best for the public benefits? And how to define benefits? This is a kind of philosophy and also a kind of education. So the relationship between philosophy and education, also the understanding of the importance and the significance of the importance is important. So my question is, you can see partnership, there's a 2 kinds here. My question is, what are the key methods in solving the multiple demands in a pluralistic society? Hong Kong is now famous for its, we can agree on nothing. But one thing they can agree, all the citizens agree to protect the country once, to protect the areas. My last one is on politics. Politics is an important means in managing urban protected areas. I have distinguished some secrets. Politics before policy and progress. You should have the politics first, then you have policy and progress. Then, when you have progress, you will have funding. When you have funding, then you can have implementation. But before implementation, you need a suitable staff, you need advanced technology, you need international networks to facilitate your implementation. And the good implementation will generate community support. And the community support will influence politics. So we come to observe politics then come down. So my first question is, are we too human-centered? Now, how can we gain the community support? That is an important question. Politics is not always start as a king. Sometimes there's a politics. So all these, one day, urban protected areas are established for people, then consensus can be built, and some agreements can be reached. We then can have harmony. I just use the example of Hong Kong to end my comments. Hong Kong, we have 7 million people living in 1,000 square meters of land. We have 40% designated country parks. They are for education, recreation, nature conservation, and we have achieved all these purposes because we have got the support of the people. This is Hong Kong. The bright lighting areas are urban areas, and the dark areas are nature parks. So Hong Kong, we always give the impression of these urban areas, and you might have this. Sometimes Hong Kong can be like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a bit more flexibility in time. In a few minutes, I will look forward to discussion. But I want to ask 3 people to give very brief comments. This workshop is sponsored by 6 organizations. One organization, the Environment Institute, the Korea National Park Service, the World Commission on Protected Areas, as well as 3 others whose representatives now have a couple of minutes each to say a few words. First, let me ask you, Mary Dixon from Parks Victoria. How much go up here? In the state of Victoria, in Australia?
Thanks very much, Ted. We're excited about the development of the new guidelines. Parks Victoria is an agency that is uniquely placed in the world and that advantages parks that have in an urban setting and in a rural community. And whilst I understand there are many protected areas in cities, we actually have quite an integrated network. We see this as a golden opportunity to provide an entry point for the community to start to better appreciate the complexities of the natural environment and to engage with the ever busier society that surrounds it. People are much more time poor, it's difficult to travel, the distances are greater and greater to get to these natural areas, and so this urban park system it's absolutely critical as an entry point to the protection of the broader estate. So we see these sorts of guidelines as very important. We have a lot of programs that engage people in the urban areas specifically to generate that excitement and that passion for the broader natural network and for the broader protected area system. So we're excited about this. We have many working examples that we'll be very keen and interested to share as well as this work actually develops. So thanks.
Next, Shahid Khan. Is Shahid at the end of this Earth Trust in Pakistan? No. Well, let's get Russell Dahl, particularly local governments for sustainability. Russell.
Yes, good evening. My name is Russell Dahl, and I work for IUCN, local governments for sustainability. Firstly, thank you to the organising body for putting on such a splendid show and to Glenn to Ted for committing such a substantial commitment and contribution to this movement to reconcile urbanisation with biodiversity conservation. In IUCN, we are the world's oldest, largest network of local governments focusing on sustainability. And we recognise the immense challenges that urbanisation is facing upon protected areas and indeed the environment at large. But we also recognise the huge opportunities that arise through urbanisation for efficiency gains, for social organisation, for political leadership, for effective communication, and so on. And we hope to harness these opportunities in collaboration with the IUCN. And Ted posed the question, how does IUCN connect with that urban expertise? And when I see all these wonderful presentations, I'm thinking, how can IUCN, how can its existing expertise be disseminated towards cities? Because it's local governments who are often in charge of managing these protected areas. I think one of the most effective, tried and tested, certainly the most successful and longest standing initiative of its kind is the Lab Pioneer Project. That's Local Action for Biodiversity. It's a family of cities around the world which embarked upon a journey towards enhanced environmental management, towards internationally recognized environmental leadership. Cities have partaken, including Sao Paulo to Montpellier, Seoul to Curitiba. It's really a broad spectrum of cities. And the participating cities undertake a series of steps, including the development of local biodiversity strategies and action plans, which can help to improve the management of protected areas. So too, they come together and they facilitate and collaborate and exchange knowledge. So we have serious problems in local governments with a lack of capacity and lack of funds. We need to heighten our ambitions, we need to extend our outreach, and we need to upscale our activities. And so I rely on the support of national governments to throw their weight behind this movement, to which TED and WCPA have played such an important part. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. We have more time than we had thought for discussion. session. We can go until about 8:15. I wanted to ask my friend and deputy chair of the specialist group, Pedro Jimenez, to moderate this discussion. Pedro is a career Brazilian diplomat who is currently seconded to the Brazilian federal agency in charge of protected areas. In fact, he's the deputy director of the agency.
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to open the floor for questions. But first, if the people who presented would like to go back to the table in order to answer the questions, well, I think that would be a good idea. Please, any questions?
Good evening, Jim Barbarat from Colorado State University. Just possibly a slight concern that the publication, though I think it is great to focus on many of the mega cities that were mentioned, also provide useful guidelines for small to intermediate-sized urban centers and metropolitan areas. Both for the same reasons that were mentioned, but also because in many cases, these urban areas are surrounded by much larger national areas. And if the decision makers and publics in these small to medium-sized urban cores get behind nature conservation, it can have great impacts on the overall cost of conservation on a national scale. Thank you very much.
Yes, I'd be very glad to. Jim, thank you for raising that very important point. Indeed, when we say that more than half the world's population lives in cities, most of them don't live in mega cities. Most of them live in cities of tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. And when we were selecting the sites we would use to illustrate the urban dimensions of protected areas, what makes urban protected areas so special, we did make a point of choosing also some of the world's largest cities, but also some smaller places. The sites we've chosen in Europe, for example, the Hämeenlinna National Urban Park in Finland, that has a population of about 70,000 people. The Hämeenlinna area is an important, it provides important protected area and connectivity to large protected areas outside their town core. We also have the Scarpe Natural Regional Park in France, which is one of the first natural regional parks in France. And it has within it some small towns on the order of 10,000, 25,000 large, but small towns within and around it. And so we have several our architects do in fact touch that kind of place. And lastly, the reason it matters so much is that in 1946, Nairobi had some 120,000 people living in it, and now it has 4 million. So the small places of today will definitely be the large places of tomorrow. And managing our urban protected areas today in ways that look forward at urban horizons, a protected area manager that has an urbanizing horizon will be well served to address that urbanizing horizon right now before it becomes an urban doorstep.
If I may add, it's a complex issue. We will have to decide what we want in our strategy. Do we want just to make a toolkit for managing protected areas, or we want also to choose places where we can reach towards European makers? And that is a strategic choice of this specialist group. Sometimes whether you try to be politically correct, you don't achieve anything. So it is also a strategic choice to be on big metropolis, because that's where you have the Supreme Courts, that's where you have your parliaments, that's where you have your TV networks broadcasting from, that's where you're shaping up the moods and the new trends in every single country. So it's as much a political discussion as it is a technical one. Also, from the technical point of view, you've got to understand that it's very different when you have a national parks agency interacting with a small county or a national parks agency interacting with a big metropolis, which sometimes has a budget that is several times larger than all of the national parks agency. So even technically, it's a different discussion. Any more questions?
Good evening, I am from Panama. Panama Republic. I wonder if in your manual or your publication you have considered also some protected areas to reduce vulnerability to climate change. Because in the case of Panama, you have the Ramsar site and also a protected area that is right now it's on risk because of this urban growth of the city of Panama, and the government is trying to ban the